Pirates have long fascinated the minds of men. Rebellious, adventurous, and free-spirited, they carved their own path in the world. After serving 10 years in the Navy, I took the plunge to write my own story. Since then, I've learned directly from some of the most savvy marketers in the game. My name is Ben Perry, and welcome to the Pirate Marketing Podcast. Hey crew, before we get into the episode, I wanted to tell you about my new Facebook group, A Pirate's Life for Me. Right now, for the first 100 people who join, I'm giving away a free PDF document of a call that I objection handled for 15 minutes, ended in a one-call close. I'm going to send you this transcript. You're going to see me overcome a guarantee objection, a think about it objection, a money objection, a partner objection. If you want to see how I objection handle and how you could potentially save a lot of time and frustration and potentially make you tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, then all you have to do is go join my new Facebook group, A Pirate's Life for Me. I'll ask you a few questions, put your email in, and I will send you over this PDF script. Go there and do it now, and you'll get it for free. Now on with the episode. Well, welcome to the Pirate Marketing Podcast. I am your host, the Pirate Marketing Captain, Ben Perry. And today is an interesting day on the podcast because I have not interviewed anybody purposefully because I've been wanting to just kind of find my voice as I am, putting these podcasts out. But I decided to bring on a very special person onto the podcast. This is somebody who I've been coaching for probably the last 3 weeks. This is an individual who has done some high ticket sales in the past, but they haven't been on an account, on an offer that has had a consistent like 4 to 5 calls a day, Monday through Friday, where they're just taking calls back to back to back, like a true bona fide high ticket sales position. And so been coaching this person. And if you're watching the video, then you can already see, them to my left. But if you're listening, then the suspense is still intact. But so part of the reason why we decided to just kind of, hey, let me just kind of interview this person and have this person also ask me questions is because they've been asking me questions in between their calls. And last week, they closed 5 deals and they've got a 6th one possibly coming in. So that's enough proof of concept for me. And so the person that I'm talking about is none other than my lady, Lauren Jane Perry. And so she just signed on to this high ticket offer, has been asking me questions in between her calls. And I'm just giving her some advice, right? So like, we're eating dinner. She's asking me questions. We're watching TV. She's asking me questions. Coming out of the shower, she's asking me questions. And so, these are all good things. And isn't that interesting how, you always seem to have the best ideas, whenever you're walking or whenever you're, in the shower. And so that's the reason why we decided, hey, we should just kind of do this on a podcast. And so without further ado, welcome.
Thank you. I am honored to be on your podcast and in your studio today. This is awesome. I guess, should we tell them a little bit about my past sales experience? And I even thought I could do this at all in the first place.
Yeah, I think that, giving a little bit of context, because I'm sure there's other people who are watching or listening to this and they're like, hey, either I'm brand new or I'm not brand new, but, I have some experience, but just hearing kind of how somebody else has done it, who has, over thousands of calls underneath their belt and who, has over 3 million in sales, high ticket sales generated. So yeah, I guess, tell them a little bit about your background and how you even came to have this offer in the first place.
Yeah. So I guess I I mean, back in the day, back when I first got out of college, the Great Recession of 2008, I had to take whatever job I could. So I happened to work for Panera Bread, and because I had a car, I got to be the caterer. And then I happened to also build their sales. I believe it was the top 5 in all of the US for Panera catering sales.
Wow.
So there's a lot of Paneras. You can imagine that actually is pretty impressive. They flew in people from corporate to ask me how I had, gotten the sales so high. I was competing with the Miami branch for quite a while. And they were sad when I left, but I went on to an art museum because art was my passion and what I went to school for. And what I did there was triple their revenue for event venues and handling all the rentals there. But that kind of sales was very different than what we do here with calling people on Zoom or on the phone and trying to get them to make a decision within an hour to make a life-changing decision that might be 10K, 20K, like big money, big decisions. So I've heard you closing sales for years. I've heard you going through the scripts. And a few years ago, back in 2020, I closed a few sales for 2 different offers, and I used your script. Basically, I took your script and I modified it. And thankfully, my very first sale did actually close. I was so shocked. I didn't even know how to run the payment. And then when I told you, I was like, oh my gosh, I closed it. I was so shocked. And I was so happy. And it was only because I'd heard you do it so many times and that I had that script, and I had picked up enough on my own to figure it out. But I had no training whatsoever. And, that offer didn't end up working out because that particular coach decided to stop offering it. So I've gone a couple of years without taking a call. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel so rusty. I did go through a sales boot camp last year, but I hadn't done it for real. I'd done mock calls, and I'm really asking people to give me, $10,000 or more on a 1-hour conversation. And some of them don't even know who we are, what we do, So I was really scared that first week, and being able to ask you questions really helped me. But I still was only, I will say my very first call for this offer, I did close, and my second one. So I was like, okay, I got it. I'm good. And then I went the rest of the week without any closes. And then I went another week and I only closed 1, and I was crying by the end of it. At first I was like, yeah, let's go celebrate. Let's go out to dinner. I'm on top of the world. And then I was crying on the couch and not sure if I could do it until I talked to you. So I guess, what do you feel like maybe, I know what I feel like changed, but I guess from your perspective, what did you see?
I think it'd be very good for you to say what you did differently, and then I could tell you and fill in the blanks.
Okay, what I saw?
Yeah.
What I did differently? It was so much because I was constantly asking you questions. What perspective do I take? What what framework? How do I show up? Like the first week I had a black blazer because we're supposed to wear blazers for this particular, because we're over Zoom. So they're going to see me. I need to look professional. And then, so I went and got this white one, which makes me feel like a classy, like it's what you usually see successful women wearing, is the white outfit. And so it made me feel successful.
I just realized we're like Ebony and Ivory. Oh, Ebony and Ivory. Yeah.
But so I went and got this white blazer. And I also was thinking about the doctor framework, because you keep telling me like not to be their friend. And even just yesterday, actually, right. Okay. I was on a call and he heard the last part of it. And I was so like, oh my gosh, he can hear what I did, because he hasn't been home for some of these. He's been in his office, but he heard it this time. And he's like, you sounded like you were her friend. You let her go. And do you realize, like, if you had just diagnosed her with cancer, if she was, in your office and you're the doctor, would you just be like, hey, have fun, have a good day, like, and let them go? Or would you take it serious? Actually, can you say it the way you said it to me? Because you had this like booming voice. And after you said this, I closed the very next person. So can you say it again to me?
Yeah. So I didn't hear the whole call, but I just caught the tail end of it. And it, she was saying, yeah, okay, well, if I, I'll get back to you if I feel like this is something that I want to do. And you were just like, okay, all right, well, see ya. And so I remember telling you, I'm like, yeah, you sound like you were a friend. Like, did you ask enough questions to be able to understand like what she's looking for and what it's costing her to stay where she's at? Because if you didn't, then that's what happens. They go, okay, great, like I can walk away. But if you treat it like this is a triage room inside of the hospital and you're the doctor and you are diagnosing them based off of what they're telling you, you wouldn't tell somebody you have cancer and they're like, okay, well, I'll get back to you if I feel like I want to, get the therapy to, cure myself of cancer. You'd be like, based off of my experience, this is what I highly recommend. And, it's on you whether you leave, but you can't tell me that I didn't do everything to let you know that this is what you need to do. And so that's kind of the moral authority that happens on these calls. And they want to keep it very light. They don't want to go deep. They want to keep it very light. They want to just show up and say, well, I'm just kind of looking, or I just saw your ad or something. But the reason why they're even getting on the call in the first place is because something is up. Something is rotten in the state of Denmark. And it's your job as a closer to just figure out, like, why are they there? Because like they wouldn't be going out of their way to get onto a call with somebody to possibly find a solution if everything was going well. And I find it funny that, and maybe a little bit disturbing, that there is a whole lot of people out there who show up on these calls and they're like, I don't even know how I got here. I was on Facebook, I was doom scrolling, and then I clicked on this link, and next thing I know, like, here I am. And I just want to be like, well, what's your quality of standards for what you decide you're going to show up to? But anyway, so to your question, I was just like, hey, use the doctor framework. I guess, what did you implement on those next calls that you felt like, or maybe it was how you started the call with that new framework? Like, what was it for you?
I mean, I think it's so much. I think when you come from that stance and you're thinking, okay, if I were in a doctor's office, they would be friendly, but then not your friend. We're not going out for drinks afterwards. And in a prior career, I was a massage therapist. So I have to keep thinking about, what do I already know? And I remember, you cannot be friends with the people you massage. Like, there are lines and boundaries you have to have. And so every time I come with that same doctor framework, knowing you can laugh, you can joke a little, but not like, it's Sex and the City time to have Cosmos. And it's not Cosmo time, because they are sharing really painful stuff. If they're on that call, they have a problem, they need you to help, and to take it seriously. And it's in my nature to want to soften things and do like a little nervous laugh and like, oh, it's all right, and it's not all right, because they're there for a reason. And finding that boundary and line between being friendly and being their friend, being a leader, and like, I'm not trying to push. It's such a like gray area. So that's like, having that framework helped. And then also just having like a map. So I felt like I had the script, and I had like, I was looking at a map of where to go, and then I'd get to objection handling, and it was like I just fell off the map. Like, I just had no plan. And I'd had some stuff in the past, but I wasn't even using it. It was like, okay, I got through the first part, and okay, they said no, okay. And then I'm like scrambling for ideas what to do. So every time we're talking about it, telling me, okay, if they go here, then you go here. It's like, if they punch right, you punch left or something. Like, I'm not good with the sports analogies, but I guess just having a plan, because and the more you do it, the more you're like, oh, they always say this certain thing. So if they say that, then I'm going to say this. And having that plan was huge. So it's like framework, the plan. I mean, what else can you think of? There's just been so much. Yeah. Also, like, the messaging. Like some of them, I wanted to respond to the message. And he's like, why don't you get on the phone with them? Like, because you lose all the power when you're just messaging back and forth. Can you call them and do this? So I guess that kind of brings me to what I want to ask today. Unless you feel like.
No, I think this is great. And I just had a thought, like, if I can be a little bit meta here. So if you're listening on the podcast, like, we have Zoom open and we're recording this to Zoom, and this recording will become the podcast. We've also invited people from Facebook to jump on as well. But I'm noticing, or I'm observing, that we're kind of like, we've got our, like, hey, we're on camera faces and our posture and everything. And I think that in order to make this a little bit more relaxed and a little bit more real, like how we actually do it, I think that maybe this might be better if we just kind of face each other and we just ask questions, and we just kind of go back and forth, because, I feel like it's almost like this gimmicky vibe of, like, welcome, to CBS tonight or whatever. So, and I like looking at, your face, obviously, not just because you're my wife, but, so I guess I would start with, let's just talk about what is going on with you right now. So you've got a follow-up. Can you tell me more about this follow-up? This guy wrote you some long email and just asked the questions I guess you were asking me this morning.
Okay. Yeah. So I have not gotten an email like this from one of these particular clients so far. And so I'm like, oh, okay, something's different here. How do I handle this? And he asked 3 very long paragraph style questions. And I started writing the answers in an email. And then I was thinking, I'm like, this is a lot. And I remember what you said about, like, get them on a call. So I'm like, all right, but it's the weekend. Can I get him on a call? And I feel like it's warm right now. Like, I don't want him to lose momentum. However, I also know he's on vacation. So, like a mini vacation, a weekend vacation, but he's with his wife, and he said he was going to be talking to her about this plan. He really wanted to do it. He said his wife was supportive. I had to end up letting him go with a spouse objection, but I had already done my rounds. I did everything properly on that part. But now I'm like, I have the answers, and I checked with my team to make sure I had all the answers when I come to him. How do I get him on the phone? Do I text him? Do I just call him? Do I, Like, I'd really like to bring him in today if possible. But he said, let's talk early Monday. And I know I'm already slammed Monday. So I'm like, what do I do, I guess?
Yeah. So there's a couple things there. I guess, first of all, no matter, like, what answers that you have, never give answers over email. Right. Okay. Because then you're taking away the whole reason why you were there. Right. So this also comes back to how much of your cards did you show before they got off of the call? So this is why it's important to address, like, money objection. Is it a smokescreen or is it an actual money objection? Is it a partner objection? Right. And they're going to want to know, well, is there a payment plan? Right. And if you give the payment plan options before they get off the call, then there's no reason for them to come back to you, because they have the information and now they can make the decision without you. And that is a bad position to be in. So I like the fact that this guy is, quote unquote, emailing you while he's on vacation. I think that you trying to get him onto a call over the weekend, as much as you would love to be able to add one more to your already good week, right, of 5, and hoping to get a 6. And by the way, like, for the people listening, you get a bonus if you get if you get 6. But is it worth the extra, a little bit of money? to get the bonus on a weekend, or is it better for your psychology to go into the week with a sale already in the bag, with somebody who's already emailing you and saying, yes, I want to know these questions. Let's meet up early Monday morning.
Okay, I have a question. Could I let him know I was open to talking on Saturday? Like, hey, yeah, let's talk Monday. If I could find a time that, like suggest a time, and then say, if you want to talk this weekend, I can, or something. Like, is there a way to word it? Or is that like too desperate to, you know what I mean? Like the girl that's trying too hard or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So I see what you're saying. You want to be able to frame it the right way, without losing status, because that it's very true that your calendar is stacked and you've got very limited amount of time. This will help you whenever you're, talking to them about when to meet up. So you could say, yeah, I could possibly, talk to you first thing Monday morning. I'll have to, squeeze you in between a few people, which is true. Or, I'll be in the office for a few hours today. If you feel like, that makes more sense, so that you don't have to fight my schedule. But I would say, bring all of your, I would say those are all good questions. Bring all of your questions to the call and we'll hash it out. Because then you can control the conversation, or you have a better chance of guiding the conversation when you're in an actual call with them, rather than just giving them the information over email. Because if you do that, what's to say that you're any different than going to the website with the prices on the page? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And is that really doing them a service when they're living in their own reality with their own problems? They're literally stuck because they can't get out of their own way. And that's the whole reason why you have a job, is to help people get out of their own way.
Okay. So I like that of saying, like, I do have a couple of hours if it would make sense this weekend. If I put him.
But you say, I'll be in the office for a few hours today, if it makes sense.
Okay. I understand the wording and everything matters greatly. So if I were to talk to him on Monday, I can do 8:30 a.m., which would be before my very first call at 9. I don't really want to start that early. I could put him in between my team meetings, which if I had to miss a team meeting, I could. Or I can do it at lunch at 1. I would prefer not to start at 8:30, but I also don't want to be rushing it because I'm in between team meetings. Like, I guess I'm trying to figure out when to even schedule follow-ups, because I don't want to only give it 15 minutes and then there might be some objection handling or actually signing them up. I don't want anything to get in the way. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So this is where, this is literally the bane of every salesperson's, existence, is when you have back-to-back calls, the leads are coming in super strong, and you don't know where to put a follow-up. So, this is one of those things where you could fit it in where you could, right? It might be over your lunch. It might be, I might have to go into the morning meeting. You know what I mean? But this is one of those things where you have to listen to the context, right? How close was this guy? Are you thinking that he's super close and he's actually not, right? Is this you just leaning in, right? And I would say that whenever you're in a situation like this, where you are leaning in right now, you're leaning in because you want it. You want it more than he does.
I haven't said anything yet, though.
Well, but this is good for you to just assess before you send a message, before you send any of that. Mm-hmm. Whenever you're in this situation, take the more laid back approach, and that's usually the better answer.
Okay. And with that, though, should I offer 3 options for follow-up time? Should I only offer 1 time? Like, is more kind of bad, or just 2?
Well, he mentioned
early Monday is what he had said.
Yeah. So he mentioned early Monday. What's his time zone?
I don't know offhand. I'd have to look.
Yeah. So that's going to matter too, because if he's Pacific, then that's going to be your afternoon, which you could put him on your lunch. right? Not that you want to, but hey, like, closing deals. So time zone is a big piece there. Or you literally could just call him today, and you could say, and if he answers, then you can just say, hey, I just got your email. I had a few minutes. I was in the office, and then you take it from there. Right. Or you call him, he doesn't answer. You leave the voicemail, everything that we just said. Hey, I just got your email. I could possibly fit you in, early in the morning on Monday, but I had a couple of hours where I'm in the office today, so I figured I would just call you. Hey, Savages, if you want a transcript of how I objection handled this person for 15 minutes and get to see in detail for how I handled many different objections, think about objection, guarantee objection, partner objection, then head to my new Facebook group. For the first 100 people who join, I'm going to be giving away this PDF document. Go there now and get it for free.
Is there a chance that will come across disrespectful? Because I already know where he is and what he's doing, and that it's his time with his wife. Like, I don't want to be disrespectful. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want it to come across too desperate by calling.
Yeah. And so this is where the context matters, because you know that he's on vacation, right? But then also, like, so the offer that you have, right? You're helping people find jobs. Mm-hmm. So what is this guy's deal? Does he have a job? Is he looking for a job? So he has a job. Mm-hmm. Okay. So him being on vacation isn't like, hey, you're on vacation, dude, and you're trying to look for a job. So I would take the more lean out approach and find a place to put him on Monday. But I would confirm with him, right? So I would, if he emailed you, then I would say, yeah, let's find a time. Or I would say, I've got some time, 9 a.m. or whatever on Monday. Bring all of your questions and we'll hash it out.
Should I do it by email because that's how he communicated with me, or should I just send a quick text?
I would send it over email, because the people that you're talking to are more corporate style and they kind of live and die by their email. I like having text. I like having Facebook Messenger. When I was at Traffic and Funnels, most of the people that we talked to were on Facebook. And so we had 4 different channels of communication to be able to reach out to them. We had Facebook Messenger, we had text, we had the phone, and we had email. And so we had 4 different ways of being able to get in contact with this person. My favorite happened to be Facebook Messenger, because you could see if they read it or not. Like, that's what I love about Facebook.
So all these people are on LinkedIn. I wonder if I should take that approach, just use what we would normally do on Facebook, but for LinkedIn. Would that, I mean, do they even see it? I don't use LinkedIn. So do they see if it's read on there?
Yeah, you're asking the wrong person. I don't know anything about LinkedIn either.
Okay, never mind. All right. Okay, I think I have a good idea of what to do with him. Now, my next question is, because I still would love to hit 6 if possible, and I have the time to look through my pipeline. There's several that said yes, and for one reason or another backed out, spouse, money, I want to think about it, time, whatever, or I haven't heard from them. But there's several that were like, yes, I believe in this. They were all signs pointing to yes. And then I think because I wasn't objection handling properly at first, I let them go too soon. And then I don't know, maybe they were just being nice, but like, can I warm them back up? What should I say? Do I give up and just keep moving forward? Because I feel like my old school methods were like, don't ever give up. And I know Grant Cardone's like, never give up on a lead. And Ryan Serhine, like, he followed someone for like 6 years. Now he was channeling like a several $1 million apartment home in New York. But I mean, I guess, when do you give up on a lead? How do you reengage them? Because they're on automated email systems, but I don't believe that that's going to be really the personal touch I want to give.
Yeah. It's a good question. So right now, your days are totally packed. Like, you're getting 5 consistent calls a day, and to some people that's a lot. Some people that's not a lot. For you, like, you're literally having to like find time in between all of that, right? So, But inevitably, there's always usually somebody that will cancel or ask to reschedule. And now you have that extra hour to be able to devote, right? And you know what? That's a good problem to have. I would rather have too many leads coming in and I'm fighting to get back to, my pipeline than the other way around. But now you're asking about the people that you've talked to. So you can go about it a couple of different ways. Again, it comes back to context. How did you leave the call? Did you do everything you could possibly do, right, to make sure that that person was in the buying pocket?
Well, can I just say, like, I at first was really trying not to like burn the leads. Like some of the calls we left nice, everything's good. I didn't want to close the door. And some of them I was like, I am going to do my darndest to make sure this works. And I'm going to get uncomfortable. And I thought it was that I was being too girly, too soft, too whatever. And so I was like, I'm going to do what I thought you would do. And it's just like, I don't know, military style, like go for the kill. And then someone was like, yeah, if you're getting to that level, like you kind of did it wrong in the first part. Like it shouldn't get that combative.
Yeah.
It can, but if you've done the first part right, it shouldn't get to the point. Cause I was making people angry and they wanted to leave. And that was really hard for me. And I thought, well, this is just what closing is. This is just part of if you're really doing it right, that's what you have to be willing to do. And now I'm like, oh, if I do the discovery part better, it doesn't get so combative. So some of them, yes, they left were in good rapport, and some of them they don't want to be my friend anymore.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a lot here, and I feel like this could be a whole masterclass in and of itself. It's going to depend. All right. So when you say you left on good rapport with some of these people, it may be like you had no leverage over them whatsoever, and they weren't like in a position like to buy.
What in your mind is leverage then?
Well, I mean, if you're figuring out like what the actual cost is of them staying where they're at, what are the actual consequences? Like if you actually went into like figuring out, well, what is it going to cost you to stay exactly where you're at? What happens if nothing changes? But if you were just dancing on the clouds and you weren't actually asking them those tough questions, and they don't want to answer those questions, but you got to ask them. If you didn't do those things, then it doesn't, I would say it doesn't really matter because there wasn't enough emotion brought out.
I feel like I did the discovery and I got all the tools I needed. And I have that for most part of it because the script does ask those things. So it's like I found the tools, and then at that point I didn't know how to use them, or I wasn't willing to cash those checks, I think, as you say. And so now I have them. I don't know what to do with them because it's like, well, we're outside the conversation. Can I be like, remember how you said this? Like that would come across wrong. So can you still use those tools at all?
Yeah. Yeah. This is great. You need to use those on the call. Like you could have it and you can understand it, but prospects are like women, right? It's not like men where men get turned on with a light switch, right? Women need to be turned on like, turning on the oven, right? You gotta warm them up. The same happens to a prospect, right? You need to warm them up. They go from cold, right? And then as you begin to ask those questions that get them to elicit why they are stuck and why they need to change, then they get to the point of like, oh, I need to do something to change. But once you get off the call, all of that, the oven goes off, they're cold again, they're right back on their own reality and trying to use that leverage. It does not translate. So that's why my particular flavor is use everything you got on the first call, because after the first call, the whole dynamic shift because you are essentially chasing them afterwards. And I've just never been a fan of like following people up. Now I'm going to say, when you have people that are on follow-ups, like you can email them, you can text them, and you could use the classic, like, hey, last we spoke, we were discussing next steps to possibly, get you a new job. where do you want to go from here? And you give an open-ended question to them so that they could come back and they can either say yes, no, maybe,
Okay, so that's something I could mass send out to all of them and just check in with all of them, especially the ones I think are possible. But you mentioned the whole thing came up because you said, what leverage do I have on them? If I can't use it past the call, does it even matter that I have that leverage for this warming up my pipeline?
Yeah. So it's a couple of different things here, right? If the person has the money and they have, like, if it's a logistical objection, those are the people that end up in your pipeline, right? Either they don't have the money or they don't have the time, and that could be argued whether you can, combat that. So true logistical objections, and again, you're going to have to ask, everybody's different. I happen to think that a partner objection most times is a smokescreen for abdicating responsibility, but sometimes there's a legitimate, like, I don't do anything without talking to my partner because we have the integrity. And if I move forward on this, I'm going to violate the integrity of my relationship. So I feel like, but you have to ask questions in order to understand that. So you should know whether this is a logistical objection or if it's a fear-based objection. So now we're getting into, well, who are the people that are worthy of my follow-up? The people, and I say that because you're busy, right? And you don't want people to just put them willy-nilly on your calendar.
And I booked way too many follow-ups the first 2 weeks. And then I went to no follow-ups for you guys because I'm not wasting my time anymore. But that's that's swinging too far to the other pendulum. So how do you decide then?
Yeah. So this is where on the first call, you walk them through the entire process and you figure out, is this a logistical objection? Hey, I would love to do this if I had the money. I don't have the money. For you right now, you've got to almost like make them an offer they can't refuse type of solution to their financial problem. And so it could almost be argued that you shouldn't have any people that are a follow-up because I think it's only like $400 that somebody needs to have in order to be able to move forward. Like, if they're not able to find $400 to be able to move forward, it's a 100% fear-based objection. And so if somebody is, and you talk to a lot of fear-based people, I mean, yes, because these are corporate people who are used to being in the system. They're used to, having that security. They're not used to making, risky decisions and choices like business owners are, which is why I love talking to business owners because they get it. But when you are part of your job is to help them think about their problems better, because when you can effectively help somebody to think about their problem better in a way that's going to help them be conducive to what they want, that is value. So when you talk about the follow-up, they need to be totally on board. They need to be like, dude, if I had the money right now, I would totally be doing it. Or if I had the time, I would totally be doing this, right? And then the partner, you've got to figure out like where it is on the partner's type side. But again, if the money is, you're able to get them in and start them for $400, right? I think it's a 10K offer. They might still have to go talk to the partner if they have that particular relationship where I always talk. But you could always go back and say, are you abdicating the responsibility of this decision to your partner when you know you're the one who's actually going to be going through and having the job?
So can the partner objection ever be real? Like, I get the whole abdicating responsibility and the whole asking, is this a permission conversation or letting you know, like, hey, just letting you know, or is this a permission conversation? Yeah. I get asking that and working them through. But you said something about like, is it going to question the integrity of the relationship? Like, is it like, I cannot make this decision on my own? So is that acceptable to let someone off if they just are saying, I cannot make this decision on my own? That's acceptable.
Well, yeah, but you won't know until you ask them, right? And you have to figure out, right, is this a smokescreen or is this an actual partner objection? But part of this is you building up enough rapport with them and getting permission to go deeper and deeper and deeper. Because like they need to feel like you're on their side. They need to trust you. And when they trust you, those questions get answered very easily. And then you can effectively go through objection handling. The reason why you're able to have effective objection handling in the first place is if they genuinely feel like you're there to help them, but it's just fear, right? And if they didn't trust you, then they would be off the call. They would be leaving, right? But part of you even getting to the objections in the first place is throughout the discovery phase, you need to be communicating, hey, I'm on your side and I just want to see if or how we can help. And then whenever you go through the pitch needs to be so connected to what they're looking for and they need to feel like you have their best interest in mind so that by the time that the objections come, you can understand, is this a legitimate logistical objection or is this a fear-based objection? You asked me earlier, well, how do I know the type of people to even put onto my calendar as a follow-up? Only those people that are the logistical objections. Because if you let a fear-based objection off of the first call, that person is gone with the wind. It is going to be next to impossible to get that person back. And they will give you all kinds of reasons, justifiable reasons, good excuses why they can't move forward. But it was just fear.
Okay. So with fear, I know that a lot of that is like reframing them. And we talked about reframing them in the call, already starting off as like, let me put my coach's hat on kind of a thing and asking for permission to do that. So can you tell me, how would you do that in the discovery phase to start making sure they see you as someone that can help them with the mindset part of it? Like, because it's not in the script. So this is the part that's like, you got to go off script and know when to add this in. So how would you do that? Because I am getting fear objections.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you can't buy into their story, right? And part of not buying into the story is actually getting the truth on the table. And they don't want to put the truth on the table. And a lot of times they don't even know what the truth is because they've been compartmentalizing all their problems. And you're probably talking to somebody who has compartmentalized their problems for the last 5-10 years or whatever. Mm-hmm. Nothing against, corporate people. But I just know that type of personality is very different than what I usually talk to, which is business owners who are willing to take the bull by the horns and take those more calculated risks. When you're speaking to somebody who likes to be able to have security, even if they are making six figures, multiple six figures, you're still talking to somebody who I think most of the time they haven't necessarily done the inner work, which is where you get to shine because you've been doing nothing but the inner work. Mm-hmm. And you can't call somebody out to a standard that you don't hold yourself. Right. And so when you're asking them, well, what has you on the call today? What's going on that would even have you reach out? And they go, oh, well, I'm just looking. I'm just kind of curious. You can't buy into that. Right. And you got to say, well, I guess like, what are you doing right now, I guess, to find a new job? And they're like, well, I'm doing this, and this. Okay, well, it sounds like things are going great. Is there anything that you would change about the way in which you're doing things or, if you could? And they go, no, everything's great. I just saw your ad and I just wanted to, see what you guys were all about. Well, it's like, yeah, I get that. But I guess if you don't really have a problem, then, and you like everything that you're doing right now, then how do you see us being able to help? Oh, you tell me. You guys were the ones that, were like, hey, sign up, like come have a conversation. It's like, yeah, absolutely. We can help people who have problems that we might be able to solve because we might not. We have no ego about that. So I guess what is actually going on that had you reach out? And they're like, and this is where you can either have a short conversation or they can allow themselves to open up a little bit and, go into further conversation. Because if you go into the conversation with somebody who doesn't open up, then the entire rest of the conversation is built on a lie.